physiotherapist for British fencing. Today I'm going to take you through some mobility work for your hips. All you're going to need is a yoga mat and either bare feet or some trainers. Please read the description at the bottom of the page for more details. I hope you enjoy it.
So we're going to start by standing in the middle of our mat, take our arms above our head, and then take them all the way down and stepping into a lunge. We're going to put our hands on top of our knee, and we're just going to stretch here for a couple of breaths. Take a deep breath in, deep breath out, making sure you've untucked that toe of that back leg. Keep the chest nice and upright, and you're going to take each hand down either side of your foot. We're going to be doing a 4-point lunge. So this is the first point of our 4-point lunge. And the second one is we're going to take our hand to the inside of our knee and give our hip a good stretch there. You can push it in and push it out, make it a bit more dynamic. And then place your hands inside of your foot. You're going to push your hips through, keep stretching through that back leg. Next point is we're going to take our hand all the way up to the sky and add a little bit of rotation. Take some deep breaths in and out here, and bring that hand back down to your foot. Take a nice long stretch, chest over your knee. Okay, the next point, we're going to come down onto our elbows. If you can't quite do this, find a block or something you might be able to put your hands onto, or just go as low as you can. Coming back up, you're going to push back into down dog. Get a good stretch through the chest and back here, and then bring that other leg through for your lunge. Hands on top of your knee. Sit nice and upright. Really push through the hips here. Take your hands either side of your foot and give yourself a bit more of a stretch. Remember to untuck that toe at the back if you haven't already. Deep breaths in and out. And then we're going to the next point of that 4-point lunge. Bring that hand onto the knee, pushing your knee in and out, giving your hips a good stretch. And then bring the hands back down next to the foot. Open up through the chest, hand up to the sky. Keep a nice flat back in this position and really try and stretch through that back hip. Bringing that hand back down and folding forwards onto your hands and elbows if you can. Leaning into those hips. This just adds a little bit more weight for your hips to stretch with. Deep breath in, bring your hands back next to your foot, push back into down dog, push your chest through to your thighs, get a good stretch here. Take a nice deep breath. You're going to step forwards into pigeon stretch. So pigeon stretch is where you're going to bring your knee out to the side and sit back into that hip. Take your arms forward if you want a bit more of a stretch and fold over that knee. Increase the stretch by taking your hands a little bit further forwards, and you can take them over to the left side. Bring them back to the middle and then all the way over to the right side. So you're getting good stretch through your back at the same time here. Bringing those hands back to the middle, back onto your mat and pushing back into plank. You're just going to swap legs here. So bring that leg through into pigeon. Sit back into your hips, chest up to start with. Keep breathing, and then you're just going to rest your whole body down over that knee, through those hips, and take some deep breaths here. Give those hands a little bit more of a stretch, increasing the stretch through the back and the hips. Walk your hands over to the right this time. back to the middle and over to the left. Take a deep breath here. Bringing your hands back to the middle. Take a few breaths here before bringing your hands back to the mat. Untucking your feet, pushing back into plank. Step forwards into lunge here, and you're going to come back onto your heel. So now we're going to do this dynamic stretch, which is going to stretch through the hamstrings and through the hips. So you're going to sit back onto your bottom on one side and then push through into that lunge on the other. We're going to go for 10 reps here. On the second set of 5, you're going to increase the stretch by adding in your arms and taking a nice big stretch through that hip and back. So 5 reps without the arms, and then add in the arms for further 5 more. Take a pause here, get a good stretch before bringing your hands back down, pushing back into plank and stepping the other knee through for the same mobilizing stretch. So coming up 5 times, hands by your side, pushing those hips through, stretch through that hamstring. You will get a greater stretch if you bring your toes up with you as well. And then as we go into the second set of 5, we're going to take our arms up above our head and get a nice big stretch through the chest, the back and those hips. Keep breathing throughout. And when you finish that set of 5, push back. You're going to come back into plank. Take a rest, bring your knees down, and you're going to go for a really wide child's pose here. Okay, so knees go out nice and wide, and you sit back, bottom to your heels, chest down to your mat, and arms stretched in front of you. This is a really good one for opening the hips and for relaxing, so make sure you do take some deep breaths. You can walk your hands over to the left, get a bit of a rotation through those lats, through the back and through the hips. Bringing it back to center, walking the arms round, chest down to the mat, get a good stretch here. And then walking them over to the right to complete the stretch. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And then walk your hands back to the center. Get one final stretch with that chest down to the floor, hips back into the heels before walking your hands back and bringing your knees together. With your knees together here, we're going to give our quads a big stretch. We're going to take our hands behind us and push up through the hips. Try and keep your knees on the floor here. By actively pushing down through the knees, like they're going down into the ground, we're going to give our hips and our quads a big stretch. We're going to come through, push back into down dog to stretch that one out. Come back into that wide child's pose. And then back knees together for that big hip opener quad stretch. Going to take a bit longer here this time, so take some deep breaths in and out. Keep the knees going down towards the ground and the hips going up to the sky. You should feel the stretch in your quads, the front of your legs here. Walk yourself back up, forward fold over and come into child's pose. This is just a rebound stretch here. Coming up, you're going to push back into down dog. Bend one knee in, out, and then over the top for a big rotational stretch through that hip and the back. Bringing that knee back down nice and gently. Do the same with the other side. Bend your knee in, out, and up and round, back towards your head, opening up those hips. you have any stability issues here, just do this one with your knees on the floor. Give yourself a big stretch into down dog, and then we're going to come into what we call a Z stretch. So you're going to make a big Z shape with your two legs, the forward one a bit like a pigeon stretch at the beginning, and then the back one is bent too. You can lean forwards over this one, get a good stretch through the glutes and the back. And then walking it back up. So now we're going to be a bit more dynamic with our stretch here. We're going to bring that front leg up and back and the back leg up and down as well. 5 reps each side. Keep the chest nice and upright, and we're going to repeat that. 5 on the front leg coming up and down, and then 5 on the back leg coming up and down. Really good work. This one's a tough one. If you start to cramp, just stretch it out before you continue. Push back into plank, swap sides. Just take your time coming into that Z position, okay? Once you're in that position, chest nice and high. Get a good stretch here, allow gravity to help with that mobility. And then you can forward fold over that front leg. Deep breath in and out. And then coming back up to upright into our dynamic movement part of this stretch. So 5 on the front leg up and down, 5 on the back leg up and down. Try and get the movement to come from the hips back to the front, twice through. 5 up and down on the front and 5 up and down on that back hip. So to add to some of this dynamic stretch, we're now going to come onto a twist, a rotate, and coming up onto the knee. Okay, keep your arms out nice and straight. That keeps your back nice and flat through the stretch. As you come round, push the hips all the way through to finish that stretch. We're going to get 10 reps here. Take your time moving through this stretch. If you need to pause a little bit more, find your balance. Feel the stretch at that end point. Just take your time. Bring your hands back down onto the mat, feet back into plank. Just going to bring our knees down, and we're going to come down into frog. Okay, so this position is really nice for opening up the hips. You can put your hands around your toes, or you can use those elbows to really push out those knees. You can also rock from side to side, maintaining those elbows in the knees to help open up the hips. And then you can put your hands around those toes and come into that forward fold. If you really struggle with mobility here, you can go into a single leg frog stretch and let the other one just straddle out to the side. Take some deep breaths, come upright, bring your knees together, and we're just going to forward fold with our straight legs in front of us here to get a good stretch. Return to your mat. Come into plank, knees down, hips go back towards your heels, into child's pose. Going to scoop through to cobra, and then come to lie on our front. So one of the final stretches we're going to do today is a nice lying quad stretch. This is a nice static stretch, and bringing your heel towards your bottom using your hand for support. Take some deep breaths here. Challenge your mobility. If you feel a good stretch, that's good. If not, see if you can keep bringing that heel to your bottom. If you've got really good range of motion here and you can bring that heel all the way to the bottom, I want you to think about pushing your hips down into the ground, and that should help give you that extra stretch. Swap sides when you're ready. Take some deep breaths. This is the last stretch we're going to do today. And when you're finished, come back into down dog. Walk your hands towards your feet into forward fold. Take a deep breath here. Stretch through those hamstrings, come all the way up. Take your arms above your head. Well done.